ever feel that pressure, to like live up to everyone else's expectations?
Oh,
it's like almost everyone I talk to feels it.
For sure.
Well, today we're going deep on living authentically.
Okay, I like it.
Even when, feels like the whole world is just obsessed with what everyone else thinks,
Right.
And we've got 2 great YouTube videos to help us out here.
Okay.
Live for yourself, not for others. From The Psyche and the Courage to be Hated, Nietzsche's philosophy of radical authenticity from Philosophy Code.
Nice.
So yeah, get ready to unpack some psychology and philosophy, real life strategies, all that good stuff for creating a life that is truly yours.
It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? This whole like innate human need to belong.
Yeah.
It often clashes with our desire to be true to ourselves.
That's a great way to put it. It's almost like those 2 drives are on a collision course.
Right.
And I find it interesting how psychology actually backs that up, like with Maslow's hierarchy.
Right. Maslow's theory is a great framework here. It highlights those basic human needs, like physiological needs, safety, belonging. The need for love and connection is right up there. But as you said, that desire for acceptance can morph into something that holds us back.
Okay, so let's break this down. How does that desire for belonging, that acceptance, actually turn into a trap when we're trying to live authentically?
It happens when we start prioritizing others' opinions over our own intuition, our own values. We become so focused on gaining approval that we lose sight of what truly matters to us.
So we end up living someone else's life instead of our own.
Essentially, yes. We make choices based on what we think will please others, even if those choices don't resonate with our true self. This reminds me of a powerful quote by the Stoic philosopher Epictetus. If you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid.
That's pretty radical, but there's something about that quote that really resonates. It's like, to grow, we have to be willing to step outside our zones, even if it means risking disapproval.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that true growth often involves discomfort, a willingness to challenge the status quo and stand up for what we believe in, even if it makes others uncomfortable.
So how do we actually do that? How do we learn to navigate that discomfort and stay true to ourselves, even when facing judgment?
It starts with a shift in perspective. We often get trapped in our own heads, overthinking every little comment or look.
Yeah.
This is where cognitive reframing can be incredibly useful.
I've heard that term before, but to be honest, I'm a little fuzzy on how to actually apply it. Could you break it down for me, maybe using an example?
Absolutely. Let's say you share a dream with someone, something you're really passionate about, and they respond with negativity, telling you it's unrealistic or foolish.
Oh, I hate that.
Instead of letting that negativity define you, ask yourself, what might this person's opinion reveal about them rather than about me?
So their reaction might be more about their own fears or limitations than about my actual potential.
Precisely. Maybe they've been hurt in the past when they pursued their own dream. Or maybe they're struggling with self-doubt and projecting that onto you. Their negativity might have very little to do with you and a lot to do with their own internal landscape.
That's such a helpful way to reframe things. Instead of taking it personally, we can see it as an opportunity to understand the other person better. It almost takes the sting out of it.
It does. And it empowers you to detach from the judgment and focus on what truly matters.
I think it's easy to forget that everyone sees the world through the lens of their own experiences and insecurities.
Yes. And remembering that can help us to let go of the need to please everyone. After all, true fulfillment doesn't come from meeting other people's expectations, but from aligning with our own values and passions.
Okay, so we're starting to see how important it is to detach from other people's opinions. But how do we actually do that, especially when those opinions come from people we care about?
That's where setting boundaries comes in.
Boundaries, yes. I know they're important, but honestly, I struggle with this. Sometimes it feels like setting a boundary is rejecting the person,
It's a common misconception.
Yeah.
Setting boundaries isn't about shutting people out. It's about protecting your mental and emotional space. It's about recognizing that your time, energy, and attention are valuable resources.
Okay, I like that reframing. So it's about being intentional about how we invest our energy. What are some examples of healthy boundary set?
It can range from limiting interactions with people who consistently drain your energy to politely but firmly standing up for yourself when someone disrespects you.
That makes sense. It's about recognizing those situations that leave us feeling depleted or disrespected and taking action to protect ourselves.
Exactly. And it's not about being confrontational, but about communicating your needs in a clear and assertive way.
And what about social media? It seems like it's almost impossible to escape the pressure of judgment in that realm.
Social media is a double-edged sword, right? It can be a powerful tool for connection and sharing your passion, but it can also amplify the pressure to seek approval, leading to constant comparisons and a sense of inadequacy.
Oh, for sure. It's easy to get caught up in the endless cycle of likes, comments, and carefully curated images. It's like everyone's presenting their highlight reel, and it's hard not to compare yourself.
Absolutely. And that's why it's crucial to be mindful of your social media usage. Ask yourself, am I sharing this because it genuinely reflects who I am and what I care about? Or am I seeking validation? If it's the latter, it might be time to reevaluate your relationship with social media.
So what can we do to make social media a healthier space for us?
Setting boundaries is key here too. Consider unfollowing accounts that trigger negative feelings, taking breaks from the platform, or even just being more intentional about what you choose to share. Remember, social media should serve you, not the other way around.
That's a good reminder. We have the power to choose how we engage with those platforms, and we don't have to be passive consumers of content that doesn't serve us.
Exactly. It's about taking control of your online experience and using it in a way that supports your well-being and authenticity rather than undermine. Remember, the opinions of others are just that, opinion. They don't define your worth.
I like that. It's about recognizing that those likes and comments, those fleeting bits of approval or disapproval, don't hold any real power over us unless we give it to them.
You've got it. So as we delve deeper into this topic of living authentically, I want to encourage you to consider, what are some areas where you might be holding yourself back because of the fear of judgment? What would you do differently if you knew that you couldn't fail?
That's a powerful question, and one I hope our listeners will spend some time reflecting on. Because ultimately, living authentically isn't about being perfect or pleasing everyone. It's about embracing our imperfections, honoring our truth, and having the courage to live a life that feels aligned with who we truly are.
That's beautifully said. And in the next part of this deep dive, we'll explore some practical tools and strategies for unlearning those old patterns of seeking validation and cultivating a deeper sense of self-worth.
Stay tuned, folks. We're just getting started. So we've been talking about the pressure to live up to other people's expectations and how that can really stifle our authenticity.
It can.
Now, I'm curious about the roots of this need for validation.
Yeah?
Where does it even come from?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think to understand it, we have to go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Our childhood experiences, those play a huge role in shaping our relationship with validation, both internal and external.
So you're saying that our early experiences, especially with like our parents and caregivers, those have a lasting impact on how we view ourselves and how much we seek approval from others.
Absolutely.
Oh, what?
As children, our sense of self is still developing.
Right.
So we naturally look to those around us for cues on how to behave, what's acceptable and what's not.
Right.
Think about it. Praise often feels like love.
Yeah.
And criticism can feel like rejection.
It's like we learn to see ourselves through the eyes of others. And those early reflections, they shape how we perceive ourselves moving forward.
Precisely.
Okay.
And over time, we internalize those messages.
Right.
They become part of our internal script, shaping how we respond to feedback and how we navigate the world.
It's almost like we're carrying around those invisible report cards from our childhood.
Right.
Grading ourselves based on the standards set by others.
That's such a vivid image, and it's so true.
Yeah.
Those early experiences can have a powerful influence on our present-day behavior, especially when it comes to dealing with judgment or disapproval.
Okay.
But the good news is that we're not stuck with those old scripts forever.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we start to rewrite those old scripts? How do we break free from those? I mean, they're so deeply ingrained, those patterns of seeking external validation.
Awareness is the first step. Start paying attention to those moments when you're seeking validation outside of yourself.
Right.
Ask yourself, am I making this choice because it's truly what I want? Or am I trying to please someone else?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We have to become aware of those automatic thought patterns before we can even start to shift them.
Exactly.
But once we're aware, how do we actually change those patterns?
One powerful technique is cognitive reframing, which we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
Remember that mirror analogy?
Yes.
When someone criticizes us, it often says more about their own projections than about our actual worth.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that their negativity might stem from their own fears and insecurities rather than any objective truth about us.
Exactly.
Okay.
Cognitive reframing takes that a step further.
Okay.
Let's say someone makes a dismissive comment about your goals.
Ugh.
Instead of taking it personally, try asking yourself, what might this person's opinion reveal about them rather than about me?
So we're almost flipping the script.
Right.
Instead of letting their judgment define us, we're using it as an opportunity to understand them better.
That's exactly it.
Oh, I like that.
Maybe the person who dismissed your goals is struggling with their own fear of failure.
Yeah.
Or perhaps they were discouraged from pursuing their dreams in the past. Their negativity might have very little to do with you.
Right.
And a lot to do with their own internal struggles.
It's such a powerful reframe.
It is.
It helps us to detach from the emotional sting of their words.
Right.
And see the situation in a more objective light.
And the more we practice this, the easier it becomes to detach from those negative opinions.
Okay.
And focus on what truly matters.
Right.
Which is our own internal compass.
This brings us back to that idea of building resilience.
Yeah.
It seems like the more resilient we are, the less power those external judgments have over us.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
Resilience is like a muscle that gets stronger with practice. And mindfulness is one of the best workouts for that resilience muscle.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
Tell me more about how mindfulness helps us build resilience.
Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It's about observing our thoughts and emotions without getting swept away by them.
It sounds simple in theory,
Right.
but I imagine it takes practice to actually master that kind of awareness.
It does, but even small steps can make a big difference.
Okay.
Here's a simple mindfulness exercise you can try. The next time someone's words sting, or you feel that wave of self-doubt washing over you,
Yeah.
take a deep breath and label your feelings.
Okay.
Say to yourself, I feel hurt, or I feel frustrated, or I feel anxious.
So we're not trying to suppress or deny those feelings,
Right.
but we're acknowledging them without letting them control us.
Exactly.
Okay.
Naming our emotions helps us to process them without getting swept away by them.
Right.
It's like saying, okay, I see you fear, I feel you anger, but you don't control me.
There's a real sense of empowerment in that, isn't there?
There is.
It's like we're taking back the reins.
That's the key. And then, after you've acknowledged your feelings, remind yourself that this moment is temporary.
Yeah.
This feeling will pass.
Okay.
The situation does not define your worth.
It's about separating our emotions from our sense of self.
Precisely.
Okay.
And the more we practice this, the less reactive we become.
Right.
We learn to weather those emotional storms without letting them capsize our sense of who we are.
So we're building an inner sanctuary,
Yes.
a place where we can find peace and stability even when the world around us feels chaotic.
I love that image.
Yeah.
It's about cultivating that inner strength and wisdom that allows us to navigate life's challenges with grace and resilience.
Now, one of the most challenging things about living authentically is dealing with conflict, isn't it?
It is.
We want to be true to ourselves,
Right.
but we also don't want to hurt or alienate the people we care about.
Yeah.
It's a tough balance.
It is. And it's a tension many people struggle with.
Yeah.
We worry that if we set boundaries, if we express our true selves, we'll push people away.
And that fear of rejection can be paralyzing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But here's the paradox.
Okay.
True harmony doesn't come from avoiding conflict.
Okay.
It comes from navigating it with honesty and respect.
So sometimes those honest conversations are necessary
Yeah.
to build stronger healthships.
Exactly.
Okay.
And remember, when you set boundaries or express your true self, you're not doing it to punish anyone
Right.
or create drama.
Right.
You're doing it to honor yourself and your needs. And in doing so, you're giving others the opportunity to know and respect the real you.
And that's what true intimacy is all about, right?
It is.
Being seen and loved for who we truly are.
Yes.
Even the messy, imperfect parts.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you might be surprised to find that the people who genuinely care about you will appreciate your honesty and respect your boundaries. They'll want you to be happy and fulfilled.
But what about the people who don't respond well to those boundaries?
Right.
What if setting boundaries actually does damage a relationship?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
While it's natural to want to maintain harmony in our relationships, sometimes setting boundaries can lead to some people drifting away.
Right.
And that can be painful.
Yeah.
But it also creates space for relationships that are more aligned with your values and your vision for the future.
It's like we're creating space for healthier relationships to blossom.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like tending a garden.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes you have to prune away the plants that are no longer thriving
Yeah.
to make room for new growth.
That's a beautiful analogy.
Thank you.
But even if we understand that intellectually,
Right.
setting boundaries can still feel really scary.
It can.
Any advice on how to do it with more grace and compassion,
Yeah.
both for ourselves and for the other person?
Assertive communication is key. It's about finding that sweet spot between being passive and being aggressive.
So it's about advocating for our needs without attacking the other.
Exactly.
Okay.
And one helpful tip for assertive communication is to focus on your feelings and needs rather than placing blame. So instead of saying, You always interrupt me.
Right.
Try saying something like, I feel frustrated when I'm trying to express myself and I'm interrupted. I would appreciate it if you could let me finish my thought before sharing your perspective.
That feels so much less accusatory.
It does.
More collaborative.
It is. It's about owning your experience and expressing it in a way that invites understanding and dialogue.
Right.
Now, another aspect of assertive communication that can be challenging is saying no.
Oh, saying no is definitely a struggle for me.
It's it for a lot of people.
I hate disappointing people or feeling like I'm missing out on opportunities.
I hear you. It's a common struggle.
Yeah.
But I've also found that every time we say yes to something we don't really want, we're saying no to something that truly matters to us.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Saying no is actually a way of honoring our own needs and values.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's about recognizing that our time and energy are precious resources.
Right.
That should be invested wisely.
Okay, so how do we get better at saying no without feeling guilty or anxious?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
Practicing is key.
Okay.
Start small.
Okay.
Maybe it's declining a social invitation that doesn't feel right.
Right.
Or delegating a task at work that's draining your energy. And remember, you don't always have to give a lengthy explanation.
Oh, okay.
A simple thank you, but I'm not able to do that right now, is perfectly sufficient.
It's about setting those boundaries without over-explaining or justifying ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about honoring your own needs and limitations and respecting the other person's time by being clear and direct.
Now, I want to touch on something we've mentioned a few times, the power of gratitude.
Yeah.
It seems like gratitude is almost like a superpower.
It is.
When it comes to building resilience and living authentically.
It is.
Gratitude is like an antidote to negativity and self-doubt.
Yeah.
When we focus on what we're grateful for, it shifts our perspective and helps us see the good in our lives, even amidst challenges.
Absolutely.
So how do we actually cultivate more gratitude in our life, especially when we're feeling stressed or overwhelmed?
It could be as simple as taking a few moments each day to reflect on what you're thankful for.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a supportive friend, a cozy home,
right,
a delicious meal, or even just the fact that you woke up this morning.
Those small moments of appreciation can really make a difference.
They do.
Yeah.
You could even start a gratitude journal.
Okay.
Where you write down a few things you're grateful for each day. It's like training your brain to focus on the positive.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
It's about actively shifting our attention to the good stuff instead of letting our minds dwell on the negative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the more we practice gratitude, the more we start to see the world through a lens of abundance rather than scarcity.
And that abundance mindset can make a huge difference when it comes to dealing with challenges and pursuing our dreams.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It helps us to focus on what we have, what's working, and what we're capable of creating.
Right.
Rather than dwelling on what we lack.
Speaking of creating, let's talk about the role of our environment in living authentically.
Right.
It seems like the people we surround ourselves with can have a big impact on our ability to be ourselves.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Remember Jim Rohn's quote, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah.
Choose your circle wisely.
Right.
Seek out relationships that encourage growth, challenge your perspective, and celebrate your authenticity.
It's like creating a nourishing ecosystem for our souls.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about surrounding ourselves with people who inspire us to be our best selves.
Right.
Who believe in our dreams and support our growth. And sometimes creating that nourishing environment means letting go of relationships that are no longer serving us.
That can be a tough decision, but I think you're right.
It can.
Sometimes we outgrow certain relationships, and that's okay.
It is. Yeah. It's a natural part of life and growth.
Right.
And while those goodbyes can be painful, they also create space for new connections that are more aligned with who we are becoming.
So it's about being intentional about the company we keep and creating a supportive community that helps us thrive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because when we surround ourselves with people who genuinely see and appreciate us for who we are, it becomes so much easier to embrace our authenticity.
Right.
And share our gifts with the world.
This has been such a rich conversation.
It has.
What are some key takeaways you'd like our listeners to remember as they continue on this journey of living authentically?
Remember that you have the power to choose your thoughts, your actions, and your responses.
Yeah.
You are not a prisoner of your past or a victim of your circumstances.
Right.
You are capable of change and growth.
Such an empowering message.
It is.
We have more agency than we often realize.
We do.
Yeah.
And it's never too late to start rewriting those old scripts, setting healthy boundaries, and cultivating a deeper sense of self-love and acceptance.
That's a beautiful reminder.
Thank you.
It's a journey, not a destination.
It is.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'd like to invite our listeners to consider, What are some small steps you can take today to start living more authentically?
Yeah.
What boundaries can you set? What limiting beliefs can you challenge? And what acts of self-love can you practice?
Those are great questions to reflect on.
Yeah.
Remember, living authentically is a practice, not a perfect state of being.
Right.
It's about showing up as your true self day after day, even when it's messy, imperfect, and sometimes a little bit scary.
Well said. And in the next part of our duck dive, we'll explore some more concrete strategies for putting these principles into action and creating a life that truly reflects who you are. Okay, so we've explored the challenges of living authentically, in a world that often pressures us to conform.
Right.
And we've uncovered some pretty powerful tools for breaking free from those external expectations.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It has.
We've delved into psychology, philosophy, even mindfulness practices.
Yeah.
All in the service of understanding what it truly means to live a life that's aligned with our deepest values and desires.
And one of the most profound insights we've uncovered is that the opinions of others only control you if you let them.
Right.
That statement has really stuck with me.
It's such a simple truth, but it's incredibly empowering when you fully embrace it.
Yeah.
It's like a permission slip to release the weight of those external expectations and start living from a place of inner freedom.
It's about recognizing that we have a choice in how we respond to those judgments.
Yeah.
We don't have to let them define us or dictate our actions.
Exactly. You hold the power.
Right.
You get to decide what matters and what doesn't. You get to choose your own path.
It's like we're taking back control of the narrative. Instead of letting other people's opinions write our stories, we're stepping into the role of the author.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that you have a voice, a unique perspective that deserves to be heard.
And it's about having the courage to share that voice with the world.
Yes.
Even if it means, facing criticism or rejection.
That's right.
Yeah.
Remember, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting in spite of fear.
Right.
It's about recognizing that the fear of judgment is often far worse than the judgment itself.
Because most of the time, those judgments are fleeting. They're so caught up in their own lives. I don't think they have the time or energy to scrutinize us as much as we think they do.
It's true. We often overestimate how much attention others are paying to us.
Right.
And we underestimate our own resilience.
It's like we're carrying around this invisible audience in our heads,
Right.
constantly judging our every move, when in reality, most people are barely paying.
That invisible audience can be incredibly draining.
Yeah.
It's time to let go of that illusion and step into our own power.
So how do we move from understanding these concepts to actually putting them into practice?
Right.
What are some tangible steps we can take to bridge that gap between, knowledge and action?
It starts with small, consistent steps.
Okay.
It's not about making radical changes overnight.
Right.
It's about setting intentions,
Mm-hmm.
making choices that align with your values, and celebrating your progress along the way.
Okay, so let's talk about some specific actions people can take.
Yeah.
What are some things our listeners can start doing, like today, to live more authentically?
First, give yourself permission to fail.
Okay.
Perfection is an illusion, and the pursuit of it will only hold you back. Embrace imperfection as part of the process.
It's about recognizing that mistakes are inevitable. They're part of the learning process.
Exactly. Instead of beating yourself up when you make a mistake, treat it as a valuable learning experience.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, what can I learn from this?
Yeah.
How can I do better next time?
It's about cultivating self-compassion and recognizing that failure is not the opposite of success. It's part of the journey.
Yes. Now another important action is to start saying no more often.
This is something I know a lot of people struggle with, myself included. We're so used to saying yes out of obligation or a fear of disappointing others.
But when we say yes to things that drain our energy or don't align with our values, we're essentially saying no to ourselves, to our own well-being.
So saying no can actually be an act of self-care.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And remember, saying no doesn't have to be harsh or confrontational.
Right.
It can be as simple as saying, thank you for the offer, but I'm not able to commit to that right now.
It's about setting boundaries and protecting our precious time and energy.
Exactly. Now, another action step that's incredibly powerful is practicing gratitude.
We've talked about this before, but I think it's worth repeating. Gratitude can really shift our perspective and help us appreciate the good things in our lives, even when things are tough.
It's like a muscle that gets stronger with use. The more we focus on what we're grateful for, the more we train our brains to see the positive.
So even when things are challenging, there's always something to be grateful for.
Always. It might be something as simple as a warm cup of coffee, a beautiful sunset, or a kind word from a friend.
Those small moments of appreciation can really make a difference.
They do. And finally, don't let fear hold you back from pursuing your passions.
This is where it gets really exciting.
Yeah.
It's about identifying those dreams that light you up and having the courage to go after them.
It's about facing those voices of doubt and saying, I can do this.
Because often those voices are just echoes of old fears and limiting beliefs that no longer serve us.
Exactly. It's time to rewrite those old scripts and step into our full potential.
So, dear listeners, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this question. What will you choose?
Will you let fear hold you back?
Mm-hmm.
Or will you embrace the incredible freedom and fulfillment that come with living authentically?
The choice is yours, and the time is now.
Thank you for joining us on this journey of self-discovery.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights and practical tools to help you create a life that's truly your own.
Remember, the world needs your unique gifts and talents, so go out there and shine.